Hello, this is Professor Lori Rudman. I'm teaching psychology of sex and gender to you this semester. I'm very excited to be doing that, and this is your first lecture, so welcome. Today I'll introduce you to the course, and then I'll provide a brief history of gender research within social psychology. The course format is asynchronous, as you know. That means all lectures and films are online to accommodate students who need less structure during the COVID crisis. Or maybe you, like me, are immunocompromised and you're not comfortable being physically in the classroom. So let's do a course overview. Throughout the semester, we'll examine social psychological theories and research on how gender shapes identity and social interactions across multiple domains. So here's an overview of the topics we'll be covering and the assignments to help you decide if you want to stay enrolled. Topics include, infamously, nature versus nurture. Do gender differences come from our biology or from our socio-culture, the way we are socialized? Gender similarities, I'm going to emphasize that early because a lot of times we grow up with the idea that we are the opposite gender, and as you'll see, men and women overlap a lot more than they differ. We'll be talking about ambivalent gender attitudes and where they come from, namely our childhood. And also we'll be talking a lot about gender stereotypes. Where do they come from? What purpose do they serve? So that's the origin and function of gender stereotypes. Gender conformity and backlash against nonconformists, people who don't conform to the gender stereotypes. We call them gender vanguards. I like that better than gender deviants. If you took a sociology class, you might have heard that nomenclature, but I like to think of them more as opening doors, right? Being progressive. So gender vanguards are nonconformists. We talk about work-family conflict, which has increasingly been a difficult thing for men as well as women. That's the problem that we all face, where we have only so much time in the day and we have to give up some of it to work and some of it to family, and sometimes the two clash. So we'll talk about how women cope with that and how men are coping with that. Yes, we'll be talking about love, romance, and sex. That's probably the part of the course that I'm most passionate about. And we follow that with talking about the pressures that are on men to conform to masculinity norms and how that often leads to aggression and violence. So you might want to know something about me. Why do I study gender? I've been researching it since the early 1990s. And that's when I got my PhD in 1995 at the University of Minnesota. I came to Rutgers in 1997 after I did a postdoc at the University of Washington in Seattle. So it wasn't my first choice when I first applied to graduate schools. I thought I would do something kind of more broadly social cognition related, but as you'll find in one of the lectures of the semester, you'll see how I got reoriented to gender, and boy, am I glad I did. It has really proven to be my passion. And that's because it's one of the most exciting topics that can be scientifically studied. If you've taken like say a women's studies course, you may have learned about qualitative research methods. Social psychologists do that sometimes, content analyses, for instance, but more often we're doing quantitative research, so it involves a great deal of statistics, translating theories into some, from the cloud of theory, we drag those theories down into how we can make numbers out of those, and then we crunch those numbers using sophisticated computer programs, right? And gender turns out to be a very exciting topic to study that way. Not only does it constantly yield surprises, making the work extremely challenging as well as engaging, but it also informs social justice issues and has the potential to make the world a better place for everyone, regardless of their gender. After all, understanding the other gender is crucial for our happiness in close relationships if we are heterosexual, and therefore it's crucial for our health and well-being. Turns out people in happy unions even live longer, even after researchers control for factors like smoking, body weight, chronic diseases, other things that can shorten our lifespan. Once we statistically adjust for those, it turns out that living in a happy relationship is positively correlated with longevity. That's how important close relationships are. So learning about how women and men interact, what they desire, what they expect from one another will improve your life, possibly even lengthen it. So how do I evaluate in the course? The grades are based on 8 written assignments and 1 final exam, which is open book. For assignments, you will complete an exercise, you will write about it, and turn it in on time to earn 10 points for each assignment. So that would be 80 points total. If you turn in an assignment late, you won't necessarily get 0. You can get at least 5 points. So don't think all is lost if you get behind. Now, when you're writing your assignments for best results, I encourage you to incorporate what you learned that week by reading the material assigned on the syllabus, watching the lecture, reading the chapters, or whatever the outside reading might be, viewing the film if there happens to be a film assigned for that week. And normally, your grade would depend on how well you were able to synthesize what you learned that week, taking the course concepts that I introduced you to and mushing them into your essay. But this semester, you're going to earn 10 points just by submitting your essays on time. Now, why is that? Because normally only 25 students are allowed to enroll in this course because it's writing intensive and I do all the grading myself. What happened this semester? Well, there was an administrative error, so it wasn't caught until 94 students had been registered, resulting in way too many papers to grade carefully, right? So I had to decide what to do. Should I drop all the written assignments and only give you exams? Or should I keep the assignments and grade them by putting you on an honor system? And in the end, I decided to go with the honor system. I'm keeping them because year after year, my students tell me that the written assignments are their favorite part of the course. Why is that? Because essays allow you to incorporate what you're learning about into your own lives. And that's a great way to remember whatever it is you're learning. So what this means is that I will spot check the assignments, randomly selecting a few each week to read carefully, while scoring most of them strictly on the basis of a timely submission. You get 10 points just for turning an essay in on time. Nonetheless, I really hope that you'll do the exercises just as if you were being graded on the basis of the quality of what you write, rather than whether you just submitted it, uploaded it on time, right? Otherwise, you're not going to reap the full benefits of doing these assignments. Finally, normally I don't give any exams in this class. Instead, the final assignment is a final paper that's worth 60 points. Again, with 94 students, I can't do it that way. So I'm having instead to give you a final exam worth 60 points. So it will be a multiple choice, 60 items, every item worth 1 point each, and it will be open book. So you will have 3 hours to take the final exam, meaning the latest you should start taking it is at 2 p.m. on the 21st of December. I will make it available from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, can you tell? I'm not a fan of exams. I always learned best myself when I could incorporate the material I was learning about into something that I was writing. Just as even today, as a professor, I learn best when I'm writing up a research paper and submitting it for publication. You're reading about studies that have been done before yours, and you're incorporating that into your introduction. All of that stuff gets learned so much better when you're having to write it and apply it to your own life. So while I'm not happy about having to give you a final exam, at least you won't have to cram for it the night before, given that it's open book and you can use not just your text, your notes, the internet, any other resource while you take it. I'm not asking for a memory test. I'm just asking you to have the full availability of everything that I've already given you in the course in order to answer the questions. And I did try to make the questions as broad as possible. They're not going to be like nitty gritty, what are the details of this study versus that study. Now, to help me with this endeavor, I have for the first time a TA this semester, just an incredible person. He is Patrick Barnwell. He's a fourth-year graduate student, so he's almost a PhD. And he excelled when he took the graduate version of my Psychology of Sex and Gender seminar. And he's very excited to be the TA. So he's going to be doing most of the grading. What that means is you should contact Patrick if you're having trouble turning in assignments on time. Here is an email address for him, and I also have it on the syllabus. And of course, you can contact me anytime. My email is on the syllabus if you have like a more substantive question that I'm not going to be able to turn in this essay on time. So what is your text? I wrote it along with my long-standing collaborator, Peter Glick. He's in Appleton, Wisconsin at Lawrence University. He and I have been doing gender research together since about 1997, I would say. And we recently revised our text. It's called The Social Psychology of Gender, How Power and Intimacy Shape Gender Relations. It just came out in 2021. It's available for free. It's a PDF that I have put on your course website. Under Pages, once you click on Pages, you have to click on another button that says View All Pages, and that's where you'll find your text as well as all the outside readings. And if you like a book to cuddle up with in bed at night, this is what it looks like, and you can get it online at half.com, I hope, or Amazon, or even the student Livingston bookstore. So, okay, Other readings are all available on Canvas, also under Pages, View All Pages. And then you can download the syllabus. I suggest you check it often for when the assignments are due. And do check your email for class announcements. Use Canvas to submit your essays, but don't use it to communicate with me. Instead, text or email me. I prefer email. The outside readings, what are they? They range from newspaper articles to scientific journal articles, and those have statistics which can be confusing. So do what I did when I was an undergraduate, ignore the results section and just concentrate on reading the introduction, the methods, and the discussion. Forget all the Greek that shows up in the stats section in the results. So now, some journal articles are listed as optional. What that means is I'll be covering that paper in depth during the lecture that week, so you don't have to read it, but also I wanted just to give you the option to read it for yourself, which can be especially helpful for those of you that are thinking about going on to graduate school in psychology. Okay, it's good practice. And if you're on the fence, do I want to go to graduate school? It's a really good idea to read some primary journal articles to see if you can stomach it, right? 8, written assignments. I'm going to introduce you to those. found at Canvas under assignments. They all involve writing a 2 to 3 page double-spaced report. For the first one, I even give you ideas for which course concepts to incorporate into your essays, but after that, it's up to you to decide what to synthesize into your writing. So here's a brief summary of each exercise. Interview someone in a non-traditional gender role, like a male nurse or a female police officer, and report on their challenges and rewards. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. The second assignment is to reflect on your own experiences with gender segregation as a child, or visit an online store to analyze how products for boys and girls differ, like, you know, whether it's toys or clothes or books or videos, pick something, and then how stores tend to segregate those products by gender. And of course, you can go to an actual store if you prefer. The third assignment is to analyze how the media perpetuates gender stereotypes using any medium you like. Could be ads, could be music, could be a television show or a television series, could be a movie. Lots of options for that. Then, this is like my favorite, perform a mild gender transgression and report on how you felt and how others reacted to you performing that gender transgression. And then if that makes you uncomfortable, there's another option where you describe a time when you or someone you know transgressed gender bounds in the past. Another assignment is to analyze online personal ads for romance. You know, in order to, personal ads for romance are when people are looking for a partner. And we have lots and lots of apps now, like Tinder, for that. And what you're looking for is to see whether men and women shop for different qualities in a romantic partner, and whether they sell themselves to a prospective partner by similar or different means. Another assignment is to interview a man and a woman about how do you define feminism, and compare their responses to each other and to your own definition of feminism, as well as your feminist identity. Decide which gender bears most of the blame for the sexual double standard and defend your position. So this involves reading an outside paper by Roy Baumeister and Jean Twenge, and it's rather provocative because their thesis is that the gender that bears all of the blame for the sexual double standard is, while most of us might think, gee, if I had to point a finger, I might guess men, they actually point the finger at women, and they completely exonerate men. So I ask you to react to that paper, to either agree with it or disagree with it. And then last but not least, analyzing male aggression in the media. Again, using any format you wish. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's rap music, maybe it's film, maybe it's video games, and talk about how that promotes viewing men as violence objects. We learn a lot in this course about how women are viewed as sex objects, and I think under-investigated, as well as just under-thought about, is this notion that we portray men a lot in the media as though their very lives were expendable, and we put them through a great deal of pain and suffering often in our representations of men. And that goes along with a social psych theory called precarious manhood theory, and also a terrific film called The Mask You Live In. Okay, so all of these assignments is explained in depth in a separate Word document on Canvas. I'm just kind of giving you a very glossed over introduction. In fact, the first one actually gives you ideas for which course concepts you might integrate into your first essay. Gender essentialism is one, and social role theory is another. And those concepts, gender essentialism and social role theory, those are described in detail in the second lecture. Now, you don't have to come up with different concepts for each essay. Gender essentialism and social role theory, they're going to be handy tools for you on a number of assignments. But I don't want you to just rely on them over and over again, and I don't want you just to rely on stereotypes over and over again. Everybody knows what stereotypes are. You're going to be learning today even about different types of stereotypes. We're going to distinguish between descriptive and prescriptive, for example. But, you know, obviously, the more you diversify your knowledge of the course concepts, the more you're going to get out of this course. So now I'm just going to give you a little boost, a little help, if you will, for the very first assignment. So it's called the gender role exercise, and here's why it matters. Thanks to gender stereotypes, it can be hard for people to occupy roles traditionally associated with the other gender, like male nurses or women who are police officers or in the military. But it turns out that when you do that, when you step outside of gender bounds, it can be highly rewarding because people like to do what they're good at, even if it's unconventional. Now, gender vanguards are people who cross gender bounds, and in so doing, they pave the way for others to join them. These trailblazers are critical for challenging gender stereotypes, which is the only way you're going to defeat them and eliminate the power of gender stereotypes. So your task is to interview a vanguard using the guidelines written up in your assignment. To qualify as a gender vanguard, someone just has to be engaged in something atypical for their gender. And usually that's a job, but it doesn't have to be. For example, stay-at-home dads are great subjects. So I get some FAQ on this. Do you, can you interview someone you know? Absolutely, yes, as long as you feel you can ask them somewhat personal questions and they feel comfortable being honest with you. So really it depends on your relationship. Do you have to agree with their life choice? No, you can be either supportive or skeptical because either way you'll gain insight into their lives. Do you have to follow the questions I wrote up? Nope, you can make up your own. Do I have to type up the interview as if I were a stenographer? You can, but it's best to just summarize what you learned, weaving in what you learned from lecture 2. Again, social role theory and gender essentialism. So ideas include male nurses, elementary school teachers, librarians, dancers, stay-at-home dads, really any man who occupies a female-typed role. And if you're looking at female vanguards, women executives, doctors, lawyers, scientists, police officers, women in the military, or even wives who make more money than their husbands. Again, any woman who occupies a male-typed role. Last semester, I had a male student who decided to become a nurse after interviewing a man who loves doing that job. So this assignment could be life-altering for some of you. Now, if you don't know a vanguard, you might check Reddit, because I've had students do that. In one case, a student found a female butcher on Reddit, and boy, was that a terrific interview. So the last thing I'll say about this is please note that moms who work are actually the majority. So that doesn't really make them a gender vanguard. They're not a trailblazer for this assignment unless they work in a male-dominated job or they make more money than their husbands. Okay? So that's all I'm going to say about your first assignment. And now I'm going to give you an overview of gender research within social psychology.